My husband and I selected Air Plus for the installation from scratch in our home of the air conditioning and the heating system. From scratch, it was for the air conditioning because the house had no wiring and no copper piping whatsoever. So it was a very complex job. So the first thing I did was to interview 4 other companies, some that came from big box stores. Jim was able to identify the very best way to run the copper piping from the outside into the house with the least, and I don't want to say damage because there really was no damage, let's say the least intrusive way, the least intrusion into drywall. If I just say they're professional, I think it's a little generic. So they went way beyond that. They didn't actually do anything without telling me first what they were going to do. Actually, I wish our doctors would have been as specific as this crew was in telling us, now we're thinking of doing this. Is that convenient for you if we come in here now, or would you like us to wait? For example, my husband has some serious health problems, and the crew always asked before they came into the bedroom, is this a time that's good for you and Don, or would you prefer that we do this later? And I was very struck by that, as was Don. It was very, very quiet, whereas the other one had been pretty noisy. And the dispersion of the heat throughout the house was very even and very comfortable, whereas previously it seemed much more concentrated. There would be pockets of heat with the old unit. It was quite unpleasant and uncomfortable. Yes, I had a chance to hear the condensing unit outside when it was first installed. The crew took me outside so I could listen to it carefully. And again, I was struck by how very silent it was. However, I was used to the very quiet and non-intrusive nature of the very good Trane products because people in the neighborhood do have them, and those who have them, you can hardly tell when they're on, as compared to some other neighbors who have older units of other makes, which you can hear blocks away practically. We had very good experiences with Rhonda. I, in particular, when the inspector was here and I had to show him some permits, I completely forgot where they were. And in kind of a fluster, I called her, and the inspector just stood on my shoulder, and Rhonda guided me to bringing up the email that was appropriate, the place in the email with the PDF file attached, and the inspector was able to satisfy himself that everything was current, everything was done, and he was very pleased. I think air conditioning is one of the most, shall we say, I would say the customer is very vulnerable in this area, and to find a company that you can trust completely with such a high level of professional expertise and Jim's fantastic experience and technical knowledge, it's beyond comforting. It's really wonderful. So you just kind of sat back and let them take over. So I would, without hesitation, recommend Air Plus.